This is Charlie Towle, and welcome to A Word Before We Leave.
And I'm Brett Gaffney, the host, the man with the plan, and the classic. Welcome back to the show, guys. Today we are on video once again, and we are with the lovely Charlie Towle, hailing from Fort Worth, Texas.
Yes, indeed.
Charlie, if you just met someone on the streets, could you give them like a quick 2 to 3 sentences about you if they were like, tell me about you?
I can try. I would say I am from Fort Worth, Texas, which you've already covered that base. And I am an actor and a writer and a director. And lately I've been saying I'm a painter, but that's a little...
It's a little bit of a hobby?
It might be a little bit of a... Yeah, I might be... Over whatever.
And for those who are joining us in just audio form, the reason that Charlie got a little quiet there is because we do have cups of water, mugs of water provided, and I'm also drinking an energy drink that is not sponsored, so I will not say the name of it. But regardless, we will get on with the show with our first segment, which is Word of the Day. And I'm just going to pull that up real quick.
Okay.
And I need Wi-Fi.
Oh, yes. I can share.
Unless you would like to do the introduction to Word of the Day on your phone.
Oh, I can do it.
Go to Merriam-Webster's and search up Word of the Day, and then you can read the definition and spell out the word.
Okay, sounds good. I love this.
And it's not sponsored, but one day it will be. Merriam-Webster's Dictionary, if you're
Ooh.
watching or listening to us, please, anything helps.
We have an adjective today.
All right,
The
spell it out
word-
for us and say it to us. And
Do you want me
then
to say it first?
say it and then spell
Okay.
it, yeah.
The word is ungainly. 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 It usually describes someone or something moving in an awkward or clumsy way, or the awkward, clumsy movements themselves. It can also describe an object that is difficult to handle, especially because of being large or heavy, or someone or something that has an awkward appearance.
Now, can you provide one of their example sentences, and then this is the magic. We will come up with an example sentence for ourselves using the word ungainly.
Okay. Example. Getting the ungainly couch up the stairs was a real chore.
Now, Charlie, I'll come up with a sentence since you read so graciously the definition, and then you'll come up with a sentence.
Okay.
Moving from Nebraska to Los Angeles was an ungainly task because I had to transport my full-size mattress all the way across the country by strapping it to the top of my car.
Very nice. Let me think. Occasionally driving in Los Angeles requires an ungainly maneuver.
Oh,
Um,
that was good.
Thank you.
Do you want to continue? Is there more to your sentence?
Well,
Now I feel like I interrupted you.
well, perhaps when merging into a crowded lane, and you kind of have to, like, do that.
You kind of have to like.
Can I
slowly
go, or are you gonna just
crash into me?
not
right
let
now?
me? Yeah. I would say
Classic Los
I
Angeles
would call that
driving.
ungainly.
I'd say driving in Los Angeles is ungainly most of the time.
Yes.
Well, folks,
Fair.
that was Word of the Day, ungainly, proudly read by Charlie himself, not by me. This is great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, we're going to move into the questions. This is the bulk of the show. I like to keep it past, present, future. So we're going
Okay.
to focus for the next 10 to 12 minutes on who you were. Then we'll focus on where you are and then where you want to be.
Okay.
Let's start it off. Charlie, what gets you out of bed every single day?
Well, I would have to say my alarm clock.
Good answer.
That is, I wake up. I no longer use my phone's alarm because I find that if I look at my phone first thing in the morning, it just starts me not present, and I get sucked into whatever's going on there. So I invested in an alarm clock. It's an iHome, I think, or something like that. That plays the radio, and that wakes me up.
It wakes you up with like the morning radio.
Yeah, but
what's your station?
It's 91.5, which is the classical radio.
So you wake up to classical music. That's
Yes.
an amazing way to start the day.
It's so wonderful, and it's very quiet. So like sometimes I don't wake up right away,
Yeah.
and then I'll just kind of like my dream will feature Beethoven or something, and
Yeah.
then I'll slowly come to consciousness.
I also have an external alarm clock, but I also sometimes also use the phone because I'm big on getting out of my alarm clock's across my room. I have to stand up to turn it off.
Same.
And it's sitting on my desk, and I go across the room and I hit it, and it's just something I found online. It was like $10, and it has 3 options. You can have the sound of birds, and it's terrible. You can have the sound of essentially it's kind of like a, but then it just gets louder and louder and louder the longer you don't turn it off, and it gets really annoying. And then there's also the classic beep 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 beep.
Right.
Dreadful. Can't do that one. And then there's this song, but it's also quite dreadful, and it's like like I feel like I'm about to like play a basketball game, and it drives me insane. But that's the one I do because I know for a fact I will get out of bed to turn it off.
I used to do that in middle school. I really, really viscerally hated The Fox by Ylvis. Do you remember that song?
What does the fox say?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And that was my alarm.
Oh, God.
Because it would get me out of bed.
Would it jump into like the ha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha-cha, or would it go like, what does the fox say?
I think it just started from the beginning.
Oh,
but
God.
I will tell you this. I listened to that song for the first time when I was visiting some family in Northern California last Thanksgiving, and I kind of had fun. I was like, maybe this is was ahead of its time.
Sure. My alarm clock when I was growing up was the iPhone like alarm sound going off. God, if I hear that now, sometimes they use that sound effect in movies, and it irks me.
Yeah,
because I'm like, that's it. That's the iPhone alarm clock
that's
sound.
Childhood trauma.
I was like, sci-fi movies, stop using this sound. Change it just a little bit, tweak it.
Yeah,
raise the pitch or something, because it drives me crazy.
I hear that.
Charlie, to talk about what was growing up in Texas like, and what do you think was one of the main motivators through your childhood to be creative?
Okay, let's see. I sometimes have a hard time recalling. Like, it just kind of feels like there's like a gauze.
Fog.
Yeah, sort of over a lot of my childhood, but it wasn't like an unhappy childhood. I'm very much like a short-term memory person. But from what I can remember, growing up in Texas I would say it was peaceful. My family, we all had nature and going on like hikes and walking and getting outside was always a big important part of our lives. Like swimming, we had a pool, so we swam, and we would get out of the city on the weekends and go to like a state park or something and go on a walk. I did a lot of fishing growing up with my dad. We would go down we had a family friend who had a ranch. So the stuff that I like really am nostalgic for is the Texas that is wild and just like beautiful and there's vegetation and brush and what have you. Growing up in the city of Fort Worth, it was, I mean, I don't have like a negative perspective on it necessarily. There were definitely times, especially middle school, high school, where I was like, I need to get out of this place. But now when I go back to visit, I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool and I enjoy it. But I just didn't feel like there was a ton to do when I got older. Like, there's really good restaurants, so the only thing I would do with friends was go to lunch. I went to lunch like every single day with somebody. That was like the thing that we would do. And then beyond that, I mean, I just was so busy ever since I was a kid because I started doing theater when I was probably 6 years old. Theater, dance, I did ballet, singing. And I come from a musical family. My great aunt was a really renowned opera singer.
Really?
Uh-huh.
What was that like growing up around a renowned opera singer in the family?
I never met her. She passed away.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
That's I mean,
you never met her.
Yeah. But she and her husband, who is a composer and a conductor, I believe, they were they were well known in the music community. I'm not sure if their names are well known outside, but they performed for the Kennedys at the White House, and they used to actually, I think later on in their careers, they lived in Syracuse, New York, and they worked at the school. So,
Which you went to.
which I went to. So, and I didn't really put that together, but when I studied voice in school as well, and all of my voice teachers knew and like had studied under them or had seen them perform various times. So that was pretty cool.
So
But
they had expectations.
maybe, I don't know.
Do you think living in a family that has those two like huge creative influences kind of inspired you to want to be creative, or do you think that was just kind of like a coincidence?
I'm not sure. I definitely think that my mom and my dad knew from a young age that I was artistically inclined. I saw a home video of me at 3 years old, like directing my older brother in a play, and I was like, no, you stand here, and I was like, oh, so it's from the cradle. I have been like this.
Yeah.
But so they enrolled me, I have to imagine, in the dance and the theater and stuff. So I think once they put me in there, I realized that I really liked it. And then I sang in choir, and I really loved to draw. I was a big doodler and painter. So just all of it. I really was into all of it. And then when I got a little older, I went back to the theater company that I was a part of as a really little kid when I was like 9 or 10. And it was called Kids Who Care, which is a nonprofit theater for kids between, I don't know what ages, but we did a ton of outreach, and we would perform all over North Texas at like old folks' homes and hospitals and boys and girls clubs. And it's not very vivid because I stopped doing it when I was around 12, but like every single day after school, I would go there and I would learn dancing, singing, acting, and then we would do shows as well that were original. And then we would also do like touring performances and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was like, that was kind of where the theater thing and the performance thing really began to germinate.
Totally. And I also, just from knowing you, we met on a film, filming together, acting together. Just being behind the scenes, you talk so much about novels and books and art and the way other people's stories have influenced you and inspired you to take action in your life. So I was wondering, what was a piece of work growing up that you really latched onto? Something that really felt like if someone had to watch a movie or read a book to understand me, Charlie, as a better person, what would that be?
I think I'm going to have to give that answer in two waves. Because,
sure, totally.
Because I feel, along with this idea of my memory being a little bit hazy, I feel like I've had multiple... I sort of feel like I had a second adolescence when I got to college, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Because for various reasons we don't need to get into, my coming into who I am as a human, which I feel like is supposed to happen middle school, high school, was very much delayed.
Like the puberty kind of adolescence into adulthood age.
Yeah, just like figuring out who you are. Like that was frozen for me until I got to college, because I'm gay. And
Sure.
So growing up in Texas, it felt like a thing that I could not be. And also I didn't know anything about it. So it just was I was really confused, and I was trying so hard to be somebody else all the time that I had no idea who I was.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't until I got to college. So I'll give some things that inspired me then, but then also after the fact when I really started to open up to the world and
be like, there's something inside me that feels repressed.
Yeah, which I started to realize, of course, late in high school, but I didn't really get to explore it and fully like open the doors and be like, okay, this is who I'm going to be now, until I got to college. Mm-hmm. But I was really I read Gone with the Wind in 6th grade.
A classic?
Yeah, and I read it because we had this like reading program called AR. Did you have that?
No.
Okay.
I went to school in Kansas,
Right.
and the education school, and I loved it. But from what I understand, public education in Kansas was one of the worst states to get public education in.
Well, we might be worse because we're 49 of 50
Oh,
in Texas.
I think we're like 46.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, nice. But we had a program called AR, which is where you have to read books, of course, and then through this program, you take tests, and if you pass the test, you get a certain amount of points based on the difficulty and the length of the book.
Okay.
So
Sounds elaborate.
when I was in elementary school, the points were, I don't know, maybe like 15. I don't remember how it worked, but I remember I love games and I love competing. I'm very competitive. I'm a middle child from 3 boys. I'm very competitive.
Totally
And-
understand that. I'm the oldest, but my brother would be like, "Hey,
Yeah. So I had to like win. I had to have the most points, you know?
Yeah.
So I remember being a kid and like actively reading so that I would, you know. But in 6th grade, I moved schools and I got to start over AR all over again. So I got to do a lot of books I'd already read. So I would like reread them. But the point goal in 6th grade was based on, this is such a long
keep it going."
tangent.
No, it's great.
but,
It's great.
was based on like our teacher, Mrs. Ray. She was awesome. Miss Ray.
Shout out. We do shout
Shout
outs.
out Mary Ray.
Hey.
Loved her.
If you're watching, shout out.
And she would alter your point goal based on how you read. So we took a test, and that kind of determined generally where it would fall. But if you read past your goal, she would move your goal.
Totally.
So one 6 weeks, because it was six weeks periods. My point goal was set at 100, which was a lot. And Gone with the Wind was worth like 86 points or something
I'm
like
gonna
that.
knock this out right
And
now.
it was like one of the ones that we knew like what books had the most points. It was War and Peace, Gone with the Wind, and
Isn't War and Peace like 2,000 pages?
I think it's 1,300. I'm not
You
sure.
have it.
It's my
I
roommate's
see it,
copy.
right? Yeah, I see it
it's
right there.
But
Tolstoy.
I haven't read it. And the other one is, what's it called? Don Quixote was like 96 or something
Sure.
like that. And War and Peace was over 100. So those were like the books that everyone was like, oh, like the top readers really wanted to read. So I read Gone with the Wind because my parents had a copy, and I had 6 weeks to read it, and I was 12. So who knows what I comprehended?
It's just all
I think
going in and out. You're like,
my mom told me that my teacher expressed like some worry that I wasn't going to meet the goal that 6 weeks because I was reading Gone with the Wind.
yeah.
But I did it, and I read it in like 5 weeks. I remember walking down the halls, like reading, and like in class, like as soon as I would finish my assignment, and then I had to finish it. And I loved it. I was so into it. I did not understand it. I'm sure I couldn't have.
But you liked it.
It's so nuanced, and it's such a crazy story, and I haven't read it since. So I feel like I ought to, but at the time it like blew me away.
Sure.
Totally changed my life. Do you know the story? I mean, did you see
I don't.
the film,
I've
right?
never seen the film, and I've never read it. I know it's Dust Bowl era, like
No.
Prohibition.
No.
Is it like 1800s?
It's Civil War.
Civil War
She and
era.
her family are slave owners.
Okay.
It's a very controversial work.
Okay.
It's really crazy.
Yeah,
But it
I
was
know
writ-
nothing. I know nothing about it.
It was written in the 20s and early 30s.
I know it was the highest rated movie of all time for the first like 100 years of America television and movies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then Shawshank Redemption and Godfather and all the movies
Yeah.
that we have now just started knocking it down.
Yeah, but anyway, it's a whole thing. It's really complicated, and it's got a complicated history, and I'd love to read it again so I can understand it as an adult. But
Maybe this could be inspiration for you to pick up a copy.
oh, I have one. I have
Amazing.
a
So
copy.
sometime soon, I challenge you to open it up. Just start reading.
I would love to. But anyway, so that was definitely one that stuck with me. Dune as well was a big one for me.
Was that in college or high school? Or?
No, 6th grade as well.
Amazing.
Yeah, I want to say 6th grade. Dune, I loved. The scope of the story, that I think was one of the stories that first. I remember having a writing assignment in class through Miss Ray, and it was supposed to be 3 pages, and I wrote like 15, and it was totally like a ripoff of Dune, and I was just like, writing this like sci-fi space age, whatever, space opera. And she was like, it was supposed to be 3 pages. That's all I remember.
She's
But
like, I don't want to grade this.
I loved Dune. I loved Redwall. Have you heard of those? It's a really big series of children's fiction about these like mice and rodentia who live in an abbey and they fight. I don't remember.
They fight.
They fight.
That's what matters.
I loved it. I loved it so much.
Was
I read
this a
so many
picture
of them.
book?
No. They were like novels.
Oh, nice.
I have one
nice.
of them. They're big. I mean, they felt like higher than because I was reading them in like 2nd and 3rd grade,
Yeah.
so they felt like above my level. But I just loved them.
Do you keep all your books from childhood?
No. I have a few, but I have a pretty big book collection now. But most of it is
there's bookshelves all over the place.
most of it is more within the last few years. I've started collecting.
What about, was there any form of tangible art in college? This seems like a very transformative era that essentially leads you to Los Angeles at some point.
Definitely.
So what was that?
So here are the big answers to that. I went to school for theater. I studied acting. I got my BFA at Syracuse, and I wanted to be on Broadway. That was my dream. In fact, I really wanted to do musical theater, and I had auditioned for a few schools for musical theater, and I ended up at Syracuse for acting. And it kind of felt like I was betraying what I wanted, but at the same time, I knew that at Syracuse I could still take voice lessons, dance classes, etc. So it seemed like a good compromise. And in hindsight, I would not have gotten a musical theater degree. I would have had to change. It would have been far too narrow. But acting was perfect. And around when COVID hit, a little before, I was introduced to Letterboxd, and I saw
Great app.
Yeah, it was a great
app. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, that's fine.
My girlfriend always, after every movie, I'm like logging my Letterboxd, and she's like, "What is that?" I'm like, "It's Letterboxd. Don't worry about it." Shout out Carly.
You know it or you don't.
Exactly.
But shortly before that, I saw Jaws, which I credit as kind of the movie that made me love movies.
Yeah.
I watched it on the plane coming back to school from home, I think. And I just was... I'd always been scared of Jaws because I heard it was a horror film. Mm-hmm. But I love the ocean and I love sharks. So I saw it and I was like, I'm going to watch Jaws. And I didn't even realize that it was a good film. I thought it was kind of like a campy
It's amazing.
flick. But then I watched it and I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
It's so good. And when the shark like comes up on the boat, I jumped out of my seat.
The practical effects for that too were like groundbreaking for the time. Like Spielberg, just like,
Yeah.
really,
astonishing. And he was 25.
Yeah.
It's a miracle. It's one of my favorite films of all time. But I saw that film, and I mean, there were a few films in high school that I really loved, like Call Me by Your Name. I really loved.
Never seen it actually.
It's one of my favorites. It's really powerful. It really speaks to me in a very specific way.
Mm-hmm.
But that one I really loved. I really loved The Favorite as well.
Good movie
with Olivia Colman.
Yeah.
But Jaws really was like, oh, I want to watch movies. Oh, I want to watch movies. I want to like get into this. Because also the acting, like Richard Dreyfuss and Robert Shaw and Roy Scheider are just like doing something so cool. And I'd really never seen a lot of 70s films. So it was really fresh and different to me, especially in the midst of this like theatrical acting training where I was seeing a lot of good stuff and a lot of bad stuff and trying to make sense of it all for me.
In the heart of New York as well, right?
Upstate New York.
Upstate New York,
So,
not the heart of New York.
no.
Don't chastise me, East Coast. I know you guys are like, oh, what is he saying?
Yeah, closer to Canada, really, than New York City.
I've never been. I should go.
Just don't go during winter.
Is it
So-
that bad? That cold?
Oh, yeah.
Kansas and Nebraska get brutal winters, like negatives.
There was a day, my freshman year of college, where for the first time in like 30 years, classes got canceled because the wind chill was negative 80 degrees.
Oh.
And I was
coldest day
I
we had
was-
in Nebraska, the wind chill was negative 30, and I thought that was deathly.
I mean, that's crazy.
That's
but like,
crazy.
I had never. I mean, I'm from Texas.
yeah,
It
you
was
were like, I can't
beyond.
do this.
Syracuse actually, I believe, gets the most snow of any American city in relationship to like population density, I think. I'm not sure about that. That's some statistic in there
Don't
that I
quote Charlie on that, guys.
maybe quote me on that.
Maybe
You
quote
can
him.
Google it and you can refine.
We didn't go to school for meteorology. We went to school for acting.
Yes,
Both
exactly.
of us. I got my acting degree.
Yeah. But it's really bitterly cold. Anyway, what was I saying? Jaws. So I started to get into film, and then I was introduced to Letterboxd, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. It's such a cool way to gamify watching movies, because it's like I love lists. I have ADHD, and it has been at points in my life easy for me to forget things and like lose track of things. So I like to have everything very organized and like lined up. So Letterboxd is like literally the perfect app for me. And also the fact that it has all of this information in such a accessible, I'm going to stop talking about it, but you get it.
Sign up for Letterboxd. This is not sponsored, but one day it could be. Letterboxd. If you're watching, I like your money.
Yeah. Well, I like it as a journal, at least for
Yeah.
me, like a diary. I think that that's the function about it that I appreciate the most. And also like seeing how my taste has changed and grown over the years. But, so I started watching movies, and then COVID hit, and then during COVID, was really when I got into it. And so I watched a bunch of films. I saw like Blue Velvet that summer, and like West Side Story, the original one, and Sophie's Choice, just like a bunch of stuff that I had heard about but didn't know too much. And then when I got back to school, and we were all isolated, kind of quarantining, and it was a whole thing. That year, I found Canopy. Do you know about Canopy?
Mm-mm.
Canopy is a streaming service that you get through a library. So my school, you could access Canopy through it, and it has this insane collection of like art films, world film, documentaries, like all kinds of stuff. So I started watching Canopy, in particular because there are a lot of like really niche independent films on Canopy, especially like queer films. So I just watched like every single one I could find. Like every single night I was watching a film.
You're like, this is exactly what I need.
Yes. And then probably like a year and a half into this journey, I saw the film I Killed My Mother.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, so it's a film from French Canada, from Quebec, called J'ai tué ma mère, or I Killed My Mother, by Xavier Dolan. And he wrote it when he was 16 years old, and then directed it and starred in it when he was 19. And it changed my life completely.
Really?
Absolutely, it did.
What about it changed your life?
So it was during a pretty low period in my life. It was like spring of 2021, and it was still winter. I mean, it was spring, but it was winter. It was like March, so Syracuse was still bitterly cold. And at this point, all of my roommates were in shows, and I had already done the show that I had been cast in that semester. It was over, so I had my nights open, but we were still in isolation, and they were all rehearsing every evening. So I had nothing to do, so I watched a film like every single night. And I got a wine subscription from my grandmother for Christmas. So I had all this wine, and I would just like have a glass or two of wine and watch a movie. And I watched I Killed My Mother with like maybe a half a bottle of wine, maybe more. I don't remember. But it was the film is so special. It's really singular. I'd never seen anything quite like it, because it just has this like insane authenticity. It's so raw, and it felt so honest to me. And it felt like watching it like I was naked and I was looking at someone like it felt like my story in some ways. It's very not exactly, but in some ways it felt like my story, and someone had made a film about it, and I was watching it and like, who knew this? Like who knew these little details? And so it was. So Jaws was the film that made me love movies, and I Killed My Mother was the film that made me want to make movies, is what I say. But
wow,
it is a great film. I recommend it. It's really. He made it at 19, with like
nothing,
no money, and it's so good. It's so good. But yeah.
Well, that's incredible, and I think a perfect time for a segue to our another segment. It's going to be called Wordplay. And this is the classic word before we leave game where we're going to think of words on the top of our mind. And then I'm going to count down from 3. And we're going to say them at the same time and try to get to the same word. Rules, though, quite simple. Nothing in the room.
Okay.
Don't repeat any words that we've already said. No talking about what we're saying. And go as fast as possible.
Okay.
You ready?
Sure. So is it like it can be
One
any
word,
word?
just one word.
Okay.
Try to avoid names. Names get tricky.
Okay.
But you can do a name if it's like
Nouns,
obvious.
adjectives, verbs, anything?
Words, any word.
Okay.
You could do literally any word.
Alrighty.
As long as it, try to do words that have like a definition.
Okay, so
Does
not
that make
like
sense? Don't like do slang.
an
Yeah.
article.
Yeah, don't do an article.
Okay.
Things you'd see in a dictionary, you know?
Mm-hmm. Are you going to count down?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm thinking of a word. For the audio listeners, they have music that's added to this, and then for the video listeners, they get the full uncut raw interview including this moment. So the audio won't hear what I'm saying right now,
Okay.
but the video will. So
Shout out.
That's a shout out to the video watchers who want a pure unadulterated interview, and then for the audio listeners, you guys get a real masterpiece. I have a word.
Okay, me too.
3, 2, 1. Daffodil.
Vestibule.
Vestibule and daffodil. I got a word. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay. 3, 2, 1.
Alter.
Lethargic. Lethargic and alter.
So are we trying to go from these words
Essentially.
to...
Don't worry about the last. Just worry about the one round before that,
Okay,
not
so-
like the first round.
Got it. Alter and lethargic.
It's all about living in the moment and not living in the past.
Got it.
Alter and lethargic. I got a word.
Me too.
3, 2, 1.
Lichen.
Candle. Candle and lichen. I got a word.
Oh my gosh, I have it, but I can't
I'm sending it to you with
picture
my
the word.
mind.
Okay. All right.
3, 2, 1. Gargoyle.
Candelabra?
Gargoyle and
Okay,
candelabra.
we're in the Gothic. Oh, we can't talk about it. Okay, sorry.
I have a word.
It's just what I think of, right? Just whatever I think of. Okay.
Correct. Trust your gut.
Got it.
3, 2, 1.
Minaret.
Cathedral. Minaret and
Oh.
cathedral.
Okay.
We're moving towards something. I have a word.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Sacred.
Crucifix. Crucifix and sacred.
Okay.
I got a word.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Religion.
Sanctuary.
Religion and sanctuary. I got a word.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Faith.
Church. Church and
Oh, I see.
faith. I got a word.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Christianity.
Okay. Okay. Catholic and Christianity. 3, 2, 1.
Protestant.
Jesus.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Jesus and Protestant. We can keep going. Jesus and Protestant. I got a word. 3, 2, 1. Pope.
Flood.
Flood and Pope.
Okay.
I got a word. Flood and Pope.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Ark.
Boat. Oh, I was totally going to say ark and I said boat instead. Boat and ark.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Water.
Shepherd.
Water and shepherd. We're
Okay.
moving in the direction. Water and shepherd.
Okay.
3, 2, 1. Sheep.
Dolphin.
What'd you say?
Dolphin.
I said sheep.
Okay.
Sheep and dolphin. I got a word.
Okay.
Connect with me.
Okay.
Connect with me.
Okay.
I'm sending it to you. We're thinking the same word.
Sounds good.
3, 2, 1.
Seal.
Mammal
Oh.
and seal. Send it to me. Send me what you're thinking. Mammal and seal.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Otter.
Aquatic.
Okay.
I like otters so much. Aquatic and otter. You got one?
Sure. Yeah. I've got an association, but
aquatic and otter. 3, 2, 1. Sardine. Oh, sardine and beaver. We'll get it. We'll get it. Sardine and beaver. Yeah, why not?
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Damn.
Bingo. I
Very
got
nice.
it. We got
Okay.
it. That was good. And that was
Was that longer? Oh, sorry.
some people go, sometimes it takes like 3 guesses. Sometimes it goes a little longer. I think I have more fun on the long ones. Like that one is like, that's what it's designed to be. Sometimes people just like bang, bang, bang. It's just like simple, simple, simple. But we were starting with some pretty like elaborate words.
Yeah.
And so I wasn't surprised that it took a little bit longer. I really thought that we were... When you said the Gothic was gonna be my word, and then you said it out loud, and I was like, well, I'm gonna change it now.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you didn't say that, we might have just went Gothic.
Well, I was thinking Notre Dame when you said cathedral.
I've been.
So
I've been.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me too.
It went on fire, right? It burnt down.
It
It's
burned.
damaged.
They've been restoring it. I think it's almost there, because last time I was in Paris, it was still boarded up, but it was looking better.
I got to see it before the fire.
Yeah, me too.
I was 16. It was great.
I think I was 10.
Oh, wow. Nice. Charlie, we are now in the present day of the questions. I'm going to keep it a little quicker because we're around the 35 mark.
Okay.
And I don't want to like take up too much of your time. But it is about 12:28 right now.
We're chilling.
Great. Charlie, what has Los Angeles been for you since you got here?
Los Angeles has been a multitude of things. As is true for everyone who has spent a significant amount of time here, Los Angeles is, in my opinion, it is a zone of contradiction. Whenever Los Angeles is one thing, it is also the opposite, and that is almost always proven true. Like, let me see if I can explain this. On the one hand, I moved here from New York City, and something I missed in New York was just a connection to nature. I felt, a little bit
You're
like...
excused.
Thank you. I felt a little as though not having like forest near or like a mountain or just like somewhere to walk among trees, which of course in New York there is, but I lived there during the winter and I lived in Queens far from a lot of stuff. But anyway, I digress. So part of the impetus to move was to be somewhere with more nature. And there is so much. There's so much green. There's these beautiful canyons on which I now live on one of them. And hiking and beaches and mountains. And just there's so much of that. And at the same time, it is also an urban disaster. Like it's also like...
The sprawl, as they call it.
It is simultaneously like this beautiful, verdant paradise and this just like apocalyptic... dystopian,
it's a weird
like
city.
World of despair and misery and poverty and and it's really dissonant for me. Like it's such cognitive dissonance. And I of course I try to spend the majority of my time pursuing what it is I want and what it is I want to like fill my mind with and my heart with. But you can't escape there's like especially post-COVID, there's just a feeling of like things breaking down and things atrophying and like decay here. I don't know, I just feel like I see people that just look so broken, and that's really hard. And that was very true in New York, and it's honestly part of why I left is because I felt like I couldn't compartmentalize in the way a lot of my New Yorker friends seem to be able to. Like I couldn't see a person living in such just like I hate to go down this rabbit hole and like talk about people like this, but I don't know, I would just see people who were in dire straits, I'll say, and people like would die around me. and then you're just expected to go to class or go to work or like that is really difficult for me to
Human beings, just like you and me, just like
exactly.
you watching, listening.
Like I was on a train that hit somebody, and then the train stops, and everyone. I mean, this is an over dramatization, but like you feel like everyone is like, "Ugh, now I'm gonna be late," and it's like, that's not what's important here. Like someone has just died on the train that we are using to transport somewhere. It's unfathomable. So that's part of why I moved away. And granted, that's of course not the experience of living in New York. That was my experience in a very brief window I lived there. I didn't really give it a chance, and I also didn't live in the best, not best in terms of like safe or whatever. But like the place I lived was just far. It was far from everything. So I spent a lot of time on subways, a lot of time in subway stations, a lot of time. Just you know what I mean.
Just commuting.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just depressing. It was hard for me to like keep my spirits up. So when I came to LA on a school trip, and I was still kind of on the fence. One of my roommates, Sarah, I lived with her when I studied abroad in London before moving to New York, and she lived here. And she was like, you know, like, I think you'd really like LA. I feel like it'd be your speed. And I was like, okay, I've never really been. I don't know. And so I got to go on this school trip, which was really amazing. And it was around the time I was sort of trying to decide if I was going to stay in New York. I wasn't going to stay in New York, but if I was going to move to like San Francisco or Chicago or, you know, whatever.
Chicago's dope.
Chicago's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I came out here and loved it. Absolutely loved it. I met a bunch of like industry people and people from my school network, and I had a few friends who were also interested, so it just kind of seemed like a good option, especially also like pretty much everyone I go to school with or went to school with lives in New York City. So it was also like I get to kind of go and like, you know, after that 4 years of drama school, everyone is so close and so tight.
You're like a true ensemble.
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely, I wanted to kind of be an individual again and get some space and just like rediscover and re-explore some things. So,
and is Los Angeles that for you currently?
It has definitely been that. Yeah. So all of this long preamble is to say that it has been a really, really great place. And I've lived here for 2 years as of like a week ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That is a huge step. They always say it takes 3 years to know if Los Angeles is for you. So you got 1 more year to go before you make any more drastic decisions in your life.
Long-term decisions.
Yeah.
And that's good to keep in mind because I'm just like an antsy person. I'm always like, I want to go somewhere else. I want to move.
3 years. Give it 3 years,
Yeah.
they say.
I will.
The people that give Los Angeles 1 year don't give them a chance to shine. The people that give Los Angeles 2 years don't give them a chance to settle in, and the people that give Los Angeles a chance of 3 years don't give them a chance to accomplish their dreams. So it's just a matter of time, and while your dreams may not happen for 10 years, you'll know if they'll happen by the 3rd year.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. I hear that. I feel I moved here actually with the plan to leave after 5 years.
Why?
Because I didn't really know it very well, and I also was going somewhere. I had I didn't have a lot of expectation about moving here. All I knew is that I wanted to go make movies, meet people who wanted to make film, especially like independent kind of run and gun stuff like what we did.
Shout out to Jack Schutte, by the way.
Jack Schutte.
We've touched on this a little bit, but we met on a movie. Again, QLC's the movie. It's not out yet. Maybe one day it will be. Who knows?
It will.
I like the optimism.
Yeah.
You were saying, though, sorry for interruption.
Anyway,
run and gun kind of guerrilla.
Yeah. That's what I wanted to find here. Like, because I watched the movies of Greg Araki and PTA and just this like LA film thing that felt so like people move here to make film in the way that people move to New York to make theater. It's not about the money. It's not about the scope. It's about the act of filmmaking.
Yes.
So that's why I moved here.
God, that lights me up. The
Mm-hmm.
way you said that. Yes.
So I moved here, and then at the same time, because I studied acting, I want to be a director, and so I found this film school that a lot of directors I really respect went to in Paris called La Femis. So I was like, I'm going to move to LA. I'm going to immediately start taking French classes with the goal of, in 5 years, being ready to apply to La Femis, which is basically their AFI, which is like beyond a pipe dream. But
I'm just going to say this now. No such thing as a pipe dream.
yeah,
If you want to do it, you can do it.
of course. And I agree with that. But I also have to like occasionally, yeah, I probably don't. But sometimes I'll just try to temper the
glass, the
just the hope
expectations,
just a little bit, so that it
just so it doesn't crush you.
Exactly. But I do believe. I believe in myself. But yeah, so it was kind of like, if in 5 years there isn't a reason, like there isn't a really, really strong reason to stay, like if things haven't taken off as much as I want them to, or if I'm feeling ready to go, I want to be ready to go to La Femis to study film for 4 years.
And then come back.
Maybe.
Or go somewhere else.
Or stay in France.
That would be cool.
Because I love French film. So it's kind of like, I think it would be really cool to be able to work in different markets, different like visual ideas and cultural styles.
As long as you're making movies.
Yeah. And the dream would be to be able to do it all globally.
Mm-hmm.
Like
the international filmmaker, the we don't do it for the festivals and the awards, but the festivals and awards show people that we know what we're doing. So it's like one day you're in Cannes, or you're in Tribeca, or you're at Toronto, even LA Shorts. Like, these are like big festivals. Like, and these things matter. Not so much towards the art, but for the career, the business, So it's like you have to like dance between those things. But when you get training like that at such a focused niche school, like, the dividends from that investment would pay off.
I would imagine, yeah.
Yeah.
I would have to imagine. It also it seems really intense, and like I am drawn to that, like kind of like hyper like do it or die mentality of certain like schools, like Juilliard.
We have the same. Me and the MFA program at Yale. I'm like, like I want that.
Yeah. And you know what? There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
But it's not for everyone. But I love that. I love that kind of like grind mentality. Not the grind mentality, but just the feeling of being in this thing where there's so much expected of you, and the only thing like standing in your way is you. And I feel like for me that brings out the best in me. Because especially with my ADHD, sometimes it's hard for me to stay motivated and to stay focused. So when you're in a structure, like I am just like, that is when I am firing on all cylinders. So we'll see. But at the same time, I've got stuff cooking here that's really exciting and really promising, and I really love it here. And I have some great friends, and I'm always meeting new wonderful people and collaborators.
The magic of LA is that your people will find you even if you're not looking for them, because they're probably looking for you.
Precisely.
Charlie, we're getting close to time, so I'm going to do one more segment, and then we'll do about 2 more questions, and then that's the show.
Sounds good.
Is that okay?
Yeah, whatever you need. I've got time. So
this is going to be called Word Definition. I'm going to say words, and you're going to define them in your own words.
Okay.
I'm going to say one word because you're defining that. Feel free to say more than a word. Sometimes I'll say like love, and they'll be like happiness, and I'll be like, give me more, please.
My connotation.
Exactly. It's your interpretation, connotation, definition, how your soul would respond to these words.
Okay.
Film.
I'm immediately thinking about analog film and just the medium of film. I think film is a term. Film is. This is hard. I have like 4 different paths I could take.
Trust your gut.
Yeah. film is cinema. Film is cinema in the sense that every film is a movie, but not every movie is a film. And the differentiation to me, and this is going to sound so pretentious, but that's fine, is that films are cinema. Ask Martin Scorsese.
Next word. Endearing.
Endearing is sweet, wholesome, pure, soft. I think something that's endearing is something that is honest and honestly, like maybe uncool, but in a way that is true to somebody's life and that is pure.
Mother.
Mother.
Or mom. Mama. It's up to you.
Mother. Mother is that's a
Yeah, I know.
Did you choose that for me?
Yeah.
Okay.
I choose all these words ahead of time. I do a little bit of research.
Ooh, mother. Oh my God, that's stumping me. Mother is. Oh, it's so many things. I can't. Okay. Well, connotation. Mother. Mother is a feminine figure. A profound, powerful feminine figure that helps shape someone, a child, a spiritual or a literal child. And I have a mother that I love very, very much, who is my actual biological mother. And I feel like I also have gravitated throughout my life toward artistic, like, goddesses that I kind of feel like a maternal attachment to, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. That's why I asked. I thought you'd say something like that. One more word. Charlie.
Charlie is, it's so funny because it's not my name, but it is my name. It's more my name than my real name.
What's your real name?
Charles.
Charles. Okay.
But it's also not. And I've sort of grappled with having a nickname my whole life. But, okay. Connotation. It's so easy to get me started. Charlie is... I feel like Charlie is the younger, less jaded, more curious, more forgiving child self that lives in me. Charlie is like the purest distillation of who I am, my wonder, my passion, my love, my vulnerability, my fear, and also my strength.
And that was word definition with Charlie Towle. I said Tool. I had like an accent for a second. I diphthonged it. And now we will move into one question and then the final question. If you could meet 80-year-old Charlie, it's kind of a two-parter. What do you want him to say to you, but what do you think he actually says to you?
I want him to say that it was all worth it. I want him to encourage me, to say it was all worth it, but he doesn't have to say much. Do you know what I mean? Like it could be pretty simple, pretty subtle. And I want him to tell me he's happy and content and doesn't regret anything. What I think he would say is honestly something along those lines. I think he would tell me he's proud of me and he's excited for what's to come. And to continue to focus on cultivating the positive, uplifting, constructive voices inside of me, and continuing to work with and also not let the voices that try to keep me from doing things I'm afraid of, or that get in my way, or that make me feel like people don't like me or something, like to keep being gentle and patient with those voices, but not letting them take the reins. Do you know what I mean? Follow the want and the passion and not be obstructed by imagined obstacles.
Okay, now I have to ask one more question before the final question because you just inspired me. What would you say to the person that has imagined obstacles right now? Maybe they're listening to the show. Maybe they're in a similar position that you were in when you were growing up. Maybe they're living in Los Angeles trying to chase the dream. Maybe they live in Texas and they just want to be understood by their family. What would you say to that person to make them feel better about themselves?
I would say if you can name what you're afraid of, if you can know what's you're afraid of and you can name it, then you also can find what it is you really, really want. And if you can push through the discomfort, I should say when you are ready and willing to push through the discomfort and the fear, and you can name it and look at it head on, you can acknowledge that what that fear really is a manifestation of failure, of not achieving this thing that you really, really desire, that is driving you, that is the ball inside of you that is, I don't know, that's magnetically attracted to something. So if you can do that and you name it and you talk to that part of you that's afraid and you say, it's okay, because it's not that these things are really going to happen to me. It's that I really, really want something. And all I have to do is honestly pursue it. And whatever comes will come, and I will deal with it as it comes, because it's not about the obstacles anymore. It's about the goal. It's about the desire. It's about the passion. What I want is where my eyes are. And anything that gets in the way can be moved or circumvented or circumnavigated. Nothing is too great to hold you back from what you really want. Even anything like guilt is just a distraction. Shame is a cloak. It's like a toxic tree that's trying to enshroud you and enclose that true, honest, pure desire. So just know that it's not that you're a bad person or that you're not good enough. It's that you really want something. And for whatever reason, maybe someone didn't encourage you, maybe someone put you down, you feel like pursuing it is danger, but really the danger is not pursuing it. I don't know. That got a little out of the way.
It was amazing. That was an amazing answer. It was profoundly you, and I really appreciate the vulnerability. Charlie Towle, would you care to share a word before we leave?
Sure. Well, as a writer and as a big student of literature, I would like to leave many words one day. Many, many, many words. I had a really good friend of mine pass away very suddenly from cancer a few years ago, Jacob, and
I'm so sorry.
Yeah. And he was this incredibly prolific poet and playwright, and just like basically, he was a contemporary philosopher in the making. He was one. And something that really surprised me and struck me was how much I had taken that, I guess, for granted when he was alive, and after he was gone, I went through like every word I had from him, and I was like, there's so much here. Like, it's gonna last a lifetime. And obviously, I wish he were still around to keep generating, but he was so generative, and it was really inspiring to me. And so that's something I want to continue. Get out of my own way, leave a lot of words. But to answer your question more directly, I want to say, like, if I was going to die tomorrow, that I believe in the power of humanity, more specifically in the power of human love and forgiveness. And I believe that we can overcome what is going on in our world and our society by listening to people. All people. All people. Every perspective, every single one is worthy and deserves to be listened to, even if it's disturbing and jarring and completely contradicts with your own. Unless we can listen and accept and open ourselves to the differences that are product of a million things. Unless we can do that, we're gonna continue to fall and continue to continue on this trajectory. So I would say listen. I would say love. I would say forgive yourself. Learn to love yourself, which is the hardest thing to do, but in little ways, forgive yourself for being awkward when you saw someone you hadn't seen in a while. Forgive yourself for telling the cashier at the grocery store to enjoy their meal, just forgive yourself for that. Like, love who you are, because who you are is worthy of being loved regardless of anything else. And we will overcome if we can love, if we can listen, and we can accept growth and accept change. I don't know. Was that concise enough?
Yeah.
Okay.
Love, learn, and listen. Specifically. Guys, this has been Brett Gaffney and
Charlie Towle.
And you just listened or watched A Word Before We Leave, the podcast that is designed to help us understand ourselves by listening to others. You essentially said the mission of the show in your word before you left. So thank you for confirming why I do the podcast. Genuinely. It was like, I feel recognized right now for what I'm trying to do with this. But other than that, this isn't about me. This is about Charlie today and about you guys watching and listening. So thank you for spending this time with us, whether you're watching on your phone or on your TV or on your tablet, or you're listening in the car, on an airplane, traveling, going from point A to point B. You matter. Today is just another day, and tomorrow will and always will be brand new. This has been Brett Gaffney and Charlie Towle, and maybe you too can read Gone with the Wind.
Or something else.
Read a book from your childhood. Yeah. Inspire yourself. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to everyone from season 2. I want to thank you to all of my loved ones, friends, family for the support. And most importantly, you, the listener and watcher. You guys are why I do this. Even if just one person hears this, maybe you'll also have an experience like Charlie did with I Killed My Mother, the movie.
Yeah.
Where this podcast changes your life, which is why I do it. Thank you, and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
And now all I have to do is close a door physically. It doesn't even have to be in frame, but that's how every episode ends. I need to close a door like that.
Okay. There's one right there.
Can I close that? Can I close that closet door?
Yeah, for sure.
Amazing.
It'd be really funny if it just broke off the hinges or something.
I cried. I'll buy you a new one.